I often say it's kind of a jigsaw puzzle, trying to find the right pieces to fit together between clients, companies, and the candidates that we work on, and finding the right combination of talents and needs at our clients to fit the two together. And that's always been something that I've enjoyed.
Welcome back to Talent Hunters, powered by MRI Network, where each week we talk with the world's top talent strategists and executive recruiters. If you want to build talented teams that drive your company to big goals and big growth, then this podcast is for you. And now, let's join the conversation with today's episode of Talent Hunters.
My name is Vince Holt, and I am the host of Talent Hunters. And today we have Joe Bubenzer, the owner of Management Recruiters of Davidson, North Carolina. And Joe founded his business in 2001. And so far this year, Joe is ranked in the top 50 in the entire company. Congratulations and welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Vince. Yes, I started in 2001, like you said. I had a varied career, actually, before even coming into recruiting. An engineer by training, and worked actually in some industry positions prior to coming into Management Recruiters of Davidson and into recruiting. Spent a lot of time actually in the automotive industry, and then with the marine industry for a while, and also into recruiting following that. So my longest time, frankly, before recruiting was with companies, pretty large companies actually, in the automotive industry. I worked for General Motors and ITT Automotive and some of the big suppliers. I had assignments really throughout the country and around the world. I think I had 5 U.S. assignments and a couple of overseas assignments in the automotive industry, and quite a variety of different positions that I served in general manager and vice president, sales and engineering type of roles. So enjoyed that time. And after that, I ended up going to the marine industry for a while as president of a boat building company, which was a lot of fun. I ended up working with Bertram Yacht out of Florida. And with that, I had responsibility for not only building the boats, but I got a chance to do things like going to boat shows and fishing tournaments and those kind of things. So that was a lot of fun. And then, along with a partner, as you said, in 2001, started Management Recruiters of Davidson.
So what focused you from the manufacturing world that you were in to sitting at a desk all day, working the phones, recruiting?
Well, I like the idea, frankly, of working with both clients and candidates. I often say it's kind of a jigsaw puzzle, trying to find the right pieces to fit together between clients, companies, and the candidates that we work on, and finding the right combination of talents and needs at our clients to fit the two together. And that's always been something that I've enjoyed doing, both in the corporate world and more recently doing the recruiting job.
Boy, your definition of it being like a jigsaw puzzle, I couldn't have defined that any better than you did. I've been doing this 40 years, and you're absolutely right. Trying to find the right candidates and the right jobs and so forth, it is like a jigsaw puzzle. So what differentiates MR Davidson from all the other competition that you're out there against?
Well, Vince, one of the things, and probably the primary thing to me, is kind of our specialization. MR Davidson has been involved with and are involved in building products, building materials, and construction. And we're a fairly small company. We've varied from 3 people in the office up to our current 7 over the years. And with that, we are small. So that means we do a better job, frankly, when we specialize on a smaller niche of the clients we served. And with that, a smaller group of candidates that are qualified in those areas so we can match them up. In our case, we specialize in building products and also construction. In the building products area, We've traditionally done a lot of work in window and door type companies. We worked with a lot of glass related companies, and more recently with chemical and paint related companies. And so with that, we are able, with a fairly narrow definition on those, to be able to talk to a majority of the major companies in those areas, and some of the main candidates that we try to make contact with. As an example, in the construction part of our industry, one of our heavy niches is in glass glazing and architectural metals companies. And so we would maintain contacts, frankly, with about 2,000 glazing contracting companies throughout the country, and over 3,000 project managers, which is one of our main groups that we place. So not all of those are unique to MR Davidson, but we try to maintain contact so that when a need comes up, they know that they can turn to us first.
Wow. So what do you do to build that relationship with clients that keeps them wanting to work with you?
Well, I think trust is a big factor, trust and believability. We try not to oversell ourselves. We try not to throw every candidate that comes across our desk at clients. And so hopefully they learn that they can, when they see a candidate from us, they know we've paid attention to it. They get a lot of candidates coming across their desk. But hopefully when they talk to MR Davidson, they know that the candidates that they're seeing have been talked with, and not only just a resume coming to us and passed along, but that we've actually spent time qualifying the candidates. Along with that, we know what kind of requirements and specifications those companies need, so that we can match them up, like I said before, as a jigsaw puzzle to try to fit the right candidates with the right companies.
Now, you talk a lot about qualifying the candidates and making sure that they fit. You know, a lot of recruiters just go through the generalized background, wanting to hear yes from the candidates and taking the easy way to get them. What do you do to really find that candidate that you feel is special?
That's a very good question, and one of the things that we try to spend time on. We have two people that concentrate full time on being our recruiting specialist, but then the rest of us that serve on what we call a 360 account executive, as you know in your background, doing both business development and recruiting. That's one of the things that we talk about for all of us, and it's getting to know and trying to obtain a perspective from the candidate's point of view, not from our recruiter or even the company's point of view. We try to look at it from the candidate's point of view and said, what would motivate this candidate to want a different job, a better job? What kinds of geographic areas might they be interested in that they're not currently in? Most of the people we talk with are already gainfully employed and doing well, or at least doing well enough that they're not actively looking for something new. But our job is to be talking to them at that time and finding out what would be something that you would consider an advancement, be something that would improve your daily life or your family's life, and trying to then find those kind of opportunities for the candidates across the market. We're lucky in that we work in our most of our business, we work across the country. So we have the opportunity when a new location is wanted by a candidate, we have a very good chance to find them. In the general contracting world of construction, we do narrow the focus because there are so many people in the southeastern United States that, frankly, we couldn't handle much beyond that. So that's where we concentrate our effort on candidates and on clients to find out, again, what the needs and the wants of our candidates are in each case.
My gosh, the construction industry, from what little bit I know of, and I don't know anything about the recruiting side of it, the thing that I know is there is a shortage of talent out there in the construction area. Where I live here, there's construction all over the place. Where do you find people that are open to relocation?
it's difficult, very difficult, particularly in the last year or two. And as you said, the construction industry, literally for the last 3 or 4 years, has been booming. We have continually had more needs in the industry from companies than we can find good qualified candidates to fill. And so finding the candidates for all of us is the number one objective. And if we find a good qualified candidate, it's very high percentage of those that we can find a job that will want their talents. In specifically to answer your question, though, of finding them, we're very fortunate that the 2 recruiting specialists we have in our office do a very good job, and they use both a combination of the existing tools online and phone calls. When I started out in the business back in the old days, Doug Duncan, who I trained with, there was one answer: pick up the phone, dial the phone. After that, over the years, things have changed somewhat. I'm still pretty much old school, so I'm still very much saying you got to get me on the phone along with those other neat tools that you have to find people. But particularly our 2 recruiting specialists are good at the combination of doing both using the tools like LinkedIn, Zoom Info, and other things, but also getting on the phone and actually just talking to people, asking what they need. One of our recruiting specialists is an example who works very heavily in the glass glazing industry, works very heavily with LinkedIn. I think she's got 20,000 contacts in LinkedIn, and she's so well known in the industry that a year before this, she was named the Woman of the Year for the glazing industry. So that obviously helps a lot when you got that kind of notoriety. People come to you looking for opportunities.
Boy, that's phenomenal. How did you find her?
Well, that was a good catch. I will agree with you on that. She's actually worked at MR Davidson quite some time ago, left, and then came back later and been with us for several years now, working in this industry.
Oh, what a blessing you found in her. That's wonderful. We should all be so lucky.
Right.
So is there a particular placement or experience, Joe, that stands out to you as, boy, this is the one where I really realized that the recruiting industry, there's value in this business and I'll never leave it?
Well, if you're asking for a specific example of where that has come about, I would say it probably would be best illustrated by one of the gentlemen that had a very unique situation, had a medical problem that was going to be difficult to fill. He needed a certain type of medical capability from the location that he was going to be moving from, and he was moving out of an area that didn't have that kind of medical capability. And so with his background and talents, we were able to identify just a handful of the urban cities around the country that might be able to accommodate that kind of need for his children, for his child. And so we were able to find some company close by so that he could relocate there and be able to accommodate the needs of his child.
You know, not directly, but indirectly, you just gave a really window to how deep you take your qualifying to be able to dig into not only what a candidate's qualifications are, but into the family and finding out what's special in the family, what's important to the family, and so forth. I mean, that's something that a lot of recruiters, Joe, don't do enough of. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. And I agree with you very much on that. And we all know that just even purely from a business sense, I know probably every recruiter in the business has thought he had a placement and thought he had the candidate solved, only to find out that the wife wasn't quite as sold on that as the candidate was. And at the last minute, it didn't quite go through.
So I'm assuming by that statement that you and your team practice communicating with the spouses as well?
We try to. We try to at least, if not directly with the spouse, at least make sure that via the candidate, we understand what the the wife is saying, or the spouse or significant other is saying relative to the move.
I've always coined the phrase with candidates that, look, you're 49% of the decision. Your spouse is 51% of the decision because you got a place to go every day.
That's very true. Very true.
Their life changes way different than ours does. So
right.
That's good. So let's flip it over to the client side, because you've demonstrated really the depth for which you go after the candidates and really find the right candidates for the company. But what do you do other than just talk to a hiring authority to dig in to find out what you can about the companies you work with?
Well, a lot of our quote intelligence, if you will, comes from people who work with the company and not necessarily the hiring authority. We don't recruit and pull people out of the clients who we're actively filling positions for. But at the same time, in talking throughout the industry, it's very quickly learn the reputation of the various companies. You sometimes hear negative comments about some of the companies, and with that, it's kind of a red flag that you can use to avoid them as being clients. But you also hear about the ones that and witness the ones who are holding on to anybody that they hire, and they have a lot of longevity with their employees. And as you talk with those people, you hear about what some of the good things are within the companies that they work for. And with that, it's in the industries that we're in, it's a fairly small group of candidates and people that seem to rotate through the positions. So pretty quickly you can form opinions on much of the clientele, other than just as you said, the direct conversations with the hiring authorities.
Now, you started your business during an interesting time in America.
Exactly. Yeah, we started the business in 2001, right before the towers went down. And I can still recall one of the early days here in the office when I and the partner and the people we had working here heard about the first tower going down. And I thought, frankly, that, okay, well, what an accident, until the second one was hit and went down. And we closed up the shop and went and watched the rest of the accounts on TV to see what was going on. And as you said, it was an interesting time because the economy and the U.S. economy basically tanked at that time, and the recruiting business became very difficult. As an example, I was a partner in the business at that time, but in the early years, I actually left, and that's when I went to become to head up the boating company in Florida while my partner maintained the business in those lean years. And when I came back about 5 years later, my partner decided that he was going to leave the business and become a priest. So that was an interesting career change. And I took over the management of the company and have been here ever since, working and managing the business.
So we had an interesting time when we opened the doors. You left, you came back, and within a few years of you coming back, obviously we had another interesting time in America with the financial industry and so forth. We'll call it a hiccup. And then, of course, 2000, we had COVID. What do you do as a person for your team when there's things out of your control? What do you do to find consolation with them and keep them focused on success and that it's going to be okay?
Well, that's a very good question. And I would say we experienced that probably most in the downturn in the 2008 period when the market was having difficulties and so forth. Much of our business did go down. Projects were either delayed or canceled, and so therefore the construction business was not booming. There were needs for new people. That's when we tried to actually, I know you know the phrase, build the inventory and try to keep the candidate relationships going, and in fact, strengthen those, and in fact, have them ready for when the upturn comes. And so there's not, I would say that's probably where we place the most effort, I guess, is just maintaining and strengthening contacts. Some of the candidates did lose their jobs or have difficulty moving to the type of jobs that they want. And we were able to at least develop a good relationship with them during that time. The COVID times were actually interesting. We didn't experience the type of fall off that many of the other companies did. It seemed like the construction industry had so much backlog at the time of projects that had already been booked that we're a small company, so maintaining a nice, good quality inventory of jobs seemed to weather us through the COVID period pretty well. We did have 2 less people at that point in time, so the overheads were not quite as big as they are currently. But we really didn't suffer that much through the COVID like a lot of other companies did.
That's fascinating. I mean, I'm glad to hear that. Good for you guys for being in the right place at the right time.
Yes,
because
right.
There was out here in the West Coast, it struggled a bit because of getting supplies and so forth.
Uh-huh.
But boy, that's great to hear. As you look forward, where do you feel the recruiting industry is going to go? What do you think is going to happen? And you've had 25 years of experience in this. Where do you feel we're going over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, certainly the impact on elements of recruiting are going to continue to change. Just like I said earlier, moving away from being on the phone to working on the tools that are available now. Artificial intelligence is obviously coming into the picture, and some companies are going to look to see if they can do that without recruiting help. Most of the experience now, and I would expect it to continue on into the future, is the personal relationships are not going to be available with, or we're going to be able to supply value with those personal relationships even into the future in the recruiting business. I would say that things like remote work and hybrid work, though, literally in the last 2 years have changed dramatically the way we approach the business. Many of our candidates are only considering remote type work at this point and don't want to even consider on-site work. And in the construction business where most of the work needs to be on-site or very close to the headquarters, that's pretty difficult when they only accept remote. But I would say that will continue, and we've already seen a completely different workforce structure than what we were experiencing 2 and 3 years ago. So farther out in the future, I don't know. I don't necessarily have the crystal ball to do much beyond that, but I would expect it to continue to have a good, solid need for a good, dependable recruiter in a niche industry to be able to identify those candidates that are already working but might be open to something new.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, back when I started, the thing that was going to dislodge the recruiting industry was the fax machine.
Right.
And
Right.
we know where that went. And computers and, like you said, social networking and all this has always been a threat. I agree with you. The one thing that will never change is that ability to talk to hiring authorities and talk to candidates. Because I don't know about you guys, but look, if I read something, I read it usually different than the person that sent it to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm a lot different than most people. I mean, that's why it's going to be valuable to have recruiters out there. It's going to be harder work because it's tougher to get to the people to talk to them. But we just got to stay diligent.
Yeah, you're right about that. And the other thing that I didn't mention earlier, but I think it is important, we become an important source of information for our clients and for the industry. We talk to many more candidates and clients in a given day than most of the people we talk with. So we have, frankly, much better sense of what's going on across the spectrum of companies and across the industry than many of even our larger companies do. So as we are able to factually present some of that information to you, that's another value that we bring actually to our clients.
Boy, that's wonderful. It really is. So you work hard every day. You've worked hard every day for your life, obviously changing industries and so forth. What do you do to escape the pressures of recruiting?
Well, I do spend a lot of time in the office and working, but we have a unique situation here in Davidson, North Carolina. There is a group called the Central Lake Norman Golden Boys, and this area happens to be a rich area for retirees and people that have want to move into an area around a big lake, like Lake Norman. And so there's a group of 500 men that have a wide variety of activities, literally anything from boating, jet skis, cards, anything you want to think of. There's a calendar there that you could do something every day of the week if you wanted to. So many of them are already retired and enjoying 4 days a week of activities with the Golden Boys. I'm able occasionally to get one or two with them. So I enjoy that when I'm not at work.
You know, the one thing that's always stood out to me about the people that I know in this business from North Carolina is it strikes me as a club. Everybody is so personalized with everybody else. They have similar beliefs, similar actions. I mean, I just thrive talking to my friends back there in North Carolina, and it's a great place to live. It really is, Joe.
It is a great place to live. More and more people are doing it. We're being overrun sometimes with all the people moving in.
Yep, that's, boy, and unfortunately, that happens all over the country. It really does. As we start to wrap up here, do you have a question that you'd like to ask of me?
Well, I would ask back the one that you asked me, which is, what do you see for the future of the recruiting industry? Because you talk to a lot of people, you have had a chance to hear various perspectives. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on that.
You know, you covered it really well. I don't think technology is ever going to displace the diligent recruiter. I think if they practice the type of skills that you and your team practice of digging into the candidates and really bringing them quality people as opposed to, I got a guy, you're never going to get away from that. I think if we use technology like we have for the last 40 years, use technology as a tool and not let it displace us for what we're good at in talking to people, I think there's always going to be a place for recruiting.
Couldn't agree more.
I guess keep doing what you're doing, Joe. I really appreciate what you're doing. And I want to thank you for taking the time today to come on here and share yourself and open up your kimono and let people get to know you and your office a little bit better. And again, thank you very, very much for taking the time.
My pleasure, Vince. Thank you.